All right, welcome back to a brand new video of the Targeted Individual Program, Target Individual Experience, and Target Individual Programming. I was on Facebook and I saw a post about the White House correspondent dinner, the shooting that happened outside. Okay, but they making it seem as if the suspect got into the building, right? And then they say, well, it's attack on the president. Trump says, it's attack on religion. How does he know it's an attack on religion? I keep telling people that religion, these elites are using religion to further indoctrinate people. They are using manipulative tactics, cognitive warfare, neurocognitive warfare, false narrative, using social media and so forth to do what? To manipulate younger people into going back into religion, because over the past 2 decades, a large number of young people have moved away from religion, and they understand that, again, keeping people with a religious belief, particularly if they become so fanatical, right? They When they produce offsprings, those offsprings inherit the trait that makes them more susceptible to belief systems or to belief in those in the authoritative position, right? Again, I'm going to talk about false flag operations and how the first Trump assassination, that was a false flag operation, and then the second one that happened yesterday, that is a false flag. In both those incidents, you saw President Trump, at the time candidate Trump, as raise his fist, right? Like, what they're doing is trying to take away black symbolism, right? Things that mean things to black people, right? This is what white supremacy does. The liberals took away wokeness from black people and turned it into something that they wanted to attach it to, which is the LGBTQ community, right? Now we are seeing white people now throwing up the fist. We talk about it's associated the Black Power fist. Now you're seeing them, particularly with Trump, doing the exact same thing, literally stealing cultural symbolism from black people. Uh, uh, I talk about the liberal and conservative. As a black person, you need to understand that both parties are against you. All right? We fear no better under both parties. All right? We may give the impression or the assumption that we fare better under uh, liberals, right? Particularly democratic liberalism, but we truly don't. We really don't, right? And the conservative, they just straight out racist. Like Malcolm said it, right? You have the most dangerous races in America are white liberals, okay? Because you will never know. They will shake hands, eat with you, sleep with you. They'll marry you. They'll have kids with you, but they will never tear down the system of white supremacists and white supremacy. They will never do it. Okay, so if I ask Google the question, how false flag operations are used to usher in draconian attacks on society, violating the rights of the people. And this is, let me use the AI overview. It's going to give actually no AI mode, no AI overview. It's going to give you a better, uh, um, response, right? So the term false flag refers to a covert operation designed to look like it was carried out by another party. Historically, critics and political theorists argue these events are used as a catalyst for draconian shift in society through a few key mechanisms. Now, before I continue, last night the Republicans passed an extreme funding bill for ICE. Okay? Understand how they are using these things. Remember, racists will always use fear. Well, actually, different races, but people in power will always use fear based tactics so they can hold on to power, right? Trump is tanking in the polls because of what's going on in Iran. So they needed a distraction. They needed a distraction. Just as how he was losing in the poll, right? And what happened? There was an attempted assassination in his life, and all of a sudden he just, became the front runner, right, in the polls. So they orchestrate these things, and because they understand the mindset of the American public, they understand how they have shaped the minds of people. This is why they keep doing what they're doing. And the Trump walking away, throwing up the black fist, it is a symbol to white Americans, white racist American, that fear, right? That perceived fear of what they see as black power, right? But remember, black power is not rooted in their oppression. Black power is black people becoming aware and trying to do the things that they say black people must do, right? That's what they're. That's what you see. It's fine when they can talk whatever they're talking when they sabotage black people in every effort that we make, every effort, and then turn around and say, "Well, black people should be doing this," and then not. Yes, we are. We just that we're being sabotaged, and they know it. I keep saying, whenever we are, when we have no political power, we have no economic power. Okay, we depend on other groups of people for the things that we need on a daily basis, right? And for black people, that is always going to be a disaster for us. They're going to always keep us at the bottom. So we must collectively shift our mindset from a believing mindset to a knowledge-based knowing mindset. That is the only how we're going to get out of this. Not waiting on Jesus, not waiting on no God to come rescue you. That's not going to happen. Okay? So, one, the problem reaction solution framework. This is the most common theory in how these operations function. The problem: a shock or violent event occur, the false flag, creating a state of public fear and trauma. Again, I talk about trauma-based condition in society. You always hear me talk about this stuff, right? The reaction: the public feeling unsafe, demand that the government do something to restore order. The solution: the government introduce pre-planned legislation such as increased surveillance, restricted movement, or suspended due process, or suspend due process would have that the public would have rejected before the crisis. Manufacturing consent. False flag operation can be used to pivot public opinion towards goals that previously lacked support, such as entering a foreign war or targeting specific domestic groups. Targeting a specific domestic group. By framing an enemy as a perpetrator, the state can justify aggressive action under the guise of national defense. 3. Legal and legislative shift. Following a perceived emergency, draconian laws are often passed quickly, just like they did last night with the funding, right? So not only just laws, but funding, right? For military, law enforcement, and so forth, predator law enforcement, and so forth, right? These might include expansion of surveillance, legalizing mass data collection or facial recognition, erosion of privacy, allowing searches and seizure without traditional warrants, suppression of dissidents, labeling critics or protesters as threat to national security to justify silencing them. Okay, now let's look at what's happening in the Supreme Court right now, where you have a case where the Supreme Court might get rid of qualified immunity towards police officers. And when I talk about these people are so desperate, their mental illness, right, is so destructive that they are willing to engage in this. And the person who they say attempted to, that person is programmed. He is programmed. See, we don't like to think that these things happen, but that's exactly what they do. That's exactly what they're doing. They can program people in any how they want, particularly when you are not aware of that programming being done to you. Particularly when they have technology that can literally hijack your conscious mind, that can subliminally condition you while you are asleep, unconscious, right? Not unconscious, but in your subconscious mind. Right? They can do these things. And when I talk about these people holding back technology, lying to us about technology, so that they can use it against us, You have to understand what it is that they do. Okay? For psychological impact. Constant or high impact shock to the society can lead to a state where people prioritize safety over liberty. Over time, the temporary measures introduced during the emergency often become permanent fixture of the legal system, gradually normalizing a lower standard for civil rights. Historical context. While these modern, and also they turned off my internet during this, yesterday I was talking about that, right? Earlier on during the day, I had internet, right? So why they turned off my internet on my phone, right? What is it that they're doing? All right, historical context. While many modern false flag claims are debated or considered conspiracy theories, there are documented historical examples such as the Gleewich incident. Not sure if I'm saying that right. Used by Nazis to justify an invading Poland, or the USS Maine, often cited as a pretext for the Spanish-American War, where staged or misrepresented events were used to trigger massive political and military shift. Also, even though this doesn't say it, but the the lie that led up to the invasion of Iraq. Okay, the lies about um, the Saddam Hussein having WMDs, right? Weapons, what they call weapons of mass destruction. It's funny how the United States have weapons of mass destruction. The United States can engage in creating biological and chemical weapons, right? We can do all these things, but the thought of other nations doing the same thing is somehow scary to us, right? Because we want to be the only one to use those things. We have been the only one to use nuclear weapons against civilian population. We've been the only ones within the past uh, uh, 50, 60 years to kill tens of millions of people as a nation. Vietnam, the war in Vietnam, the war in Korea, the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, right? And many more. But we don't seem to have a moral code when it comes to these politicians, when it comes to these leaders. They have no moral code. What they are beholden to is money. Is money. They tell you, they put it under we have it on the dollar bill. In God we trust. God is our money. Money is God. All right. And once you go look up when did they put that on 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 money? Because it never used to say that. It never used to say that. Right? So again, we gotta understand these things, okay? Let's see if I can all right, all right, let's go through here. So uh the method used to usher in draconian attacks, justification for repression. Stage attacks created a pretext for domestic repression or to justify extreme military action. Public engineering public fear. By fabricating attacks, authorities generate panic, which is then used to manipulate public opinion into accepting the loss of rights for security. Discredit an opponent. False flags are often used to infiltrate and frame political opponents or groups within the society. Right. So what Trump is doing is showing like uh, black political movements or black movements like the Black Panther movement, the New Black Panther movement, the Huey P. Newton Gun Club, and stuff like that. Any black group that is created or formed to stop white aggression of black people, right? This is what wait and you will see because I know what I'm talking about. Like I said, I've studied these people. I know how their mind works. I know how they think. I know what it is that they do. Okay. So false flags are often used to infiltrate and frame political opponents, such as leftist groups or protesters, to discredit them, to justify harsher security measures against them. Setting the stage for war. Historically, nations have staged attacks on themselves and blame a target country to create a casus belli, a justification for war. Right? Shifting legal parameters. These acts often violate existing law but are used to change tactical, strategic, or legal situation in favor of the perpetrators. Key element and historical context. Nazi Germany, 1939. The Gestapo staged a fake attack on a German broadcasting tower, blaming Polish forces to justify the invasion of Poland. Again, you have to look at the Nazi ideology that these people have. It is the same thing, and they're going to do this. Look at the patterns, particularly with this president, his administration, and the people working for him, and the people who are around him. They are white supremacists. Okay? Now, here's another thing, right? I think that he looks, when I look at a picture, a black man, what have you, he looks like a black man. I'm not, but anyhow. But but you telling me that a black man got through security close enough that we can fire shots at the White House, and he didn't get shot and killed, right? That right there should tell you something, right? That right there should tell you something, because any other time, if he had just tried to jump over to get in the White House, they probably would have shot him to death. But he fired a couple shots and he still walked away. Like, come on now. Y'all not been paying attention, have y'all? Operation Gladio, Cold War, NATO and state security forces in Europe were implicated in false flag attacks blamed on left-wing group to influence politics. The Gulf of Tonkin, 1964. The incident used to dramatically increase U.S. involvement in Vietnam, showing how real events can be manipulated for political purpose. These methods often rely on disinformation and secrecy to make the false operation look like a genuine threat, thereby eroding trust and infringing on the freedom of the populace. Again, people need to understand and realize what is going on. All right, so here is an interview, right, in which the acting attorney general, what the acting attorney general says. And again, I'm going to make my point, and I'm going to keep making my points. All right, listen. Trump and his official likely targets of suspected gunmen, acting attorney general says. Donald Trump was the likely target of last night's shooting at the White House Correspondent Dinner, according to acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche said. Preliminary findings suggest the suspected gunman was targeting members of the Trump administration. U.S. media identified the suspect as Cole Thomas Allen, 31, from Torrance, California. Blanche said the suspect is not cooperating with the authorities. Police earlier said the suspect motive remains unknown. In his first interview since the incident, President Donald Trump claimed it was a religious thing. How can you claim it was a religious thing? And strongly anti-Christian. Now, how could you claim it was a religious thing? Right? How can you claim it was a religious thing? Okay, so at about 20:35 Eastern Time, uh, shots were heard at the event, which a number of senior politicians and journalists were attending. I'm not going to go through all of that. So speaking to ABC this week, he said it appears the Secret Service agent who was shot during the incident was shot by the alleged gunman and not by friendly fire from other agents. So he shot a Secret Service member, and you tell me he's alive? Come on now. But he adds that this is not yet confirmed and the details are still being investigated. Now, again, you cannot believe what these people are saying. I don't do believe. Okay, they will hide, they will lie, they will manipulate in order to get you to believe something that's not true, and it will cause fear. Right? Keep talking about symbolism. How they use symbolism to condition black people a certain way. Well, they use symbolism to get a certain reaction out of white people. Okay, he has been speaking to a number of U.S. broadcasters today. In an interview with the BBC's U.S. partner CBS, Bland said it's understood that no one else was injured apart from a Secret Service agent who was described as being in great spirit. He said tragedy was avoided because he was wearing a bulletproof vest. Okay, so he was wearing a bulletproof vest. All right. He didn't. He said he got shot, but he was fine. Speaking to CBS Face the Nation this morning, Maryland Democratic Rep. Jamie Raskin says Trump comments since the shooting has been a welcome change of rhetoric. What comment? The fact that he said that it was an attack on Christianity? You know, I mean, when the so-called founding fathers drafted the Constitution, they understood what religious ideology do to a nation and its people. This is why they passed. In the Constitution, what does it say? It says that no Congress shall have no religious tests for those who want to hold political office. There's a reason why I also said that there's a separation between church and state. Now, the state has not been in the church's business, but the churches has been in the state business. So there's only one side this is coming from, right? There's only one side that this racial war is coming from, and that's from the white supremacist side. Okay, and this is what they're trying to do: create a racial war within America, and then secretly passing a bill or electing not passing the bill, but secretly drafting the House passed the bill. That's right. It goes to the Senate, and then it goes to the president, right? But the House passed the bill, right? Funding ICE, like I think this. I find the article, but it was they did it. They again using these tactics, using these methods. Okay. So Raskin, who attended the White House correspondent dinner, said he hopes the incident fueled a national bipartisan conversation about how to improve public safety for everyone. There you go. There you go. What did I just read about false flag operation? And then on top of that, getting a Democrat, right? Here in New York President Department says getting a Democrat, you're like, yeah, you got to make the connection. You got to understand what it is that they're doing. See, they didn't ask a Republican, right? But this is a Democrat, okay? We have said all along that we need every politician in the country, every leader in the country, every citizen in the country denouncing political violence across the board, regardless of where it's coming from, he said. It's interesting how they'll say these things, right? But yet, if you speak out against Israel, you get arrested. Like the young woman that made a joke on, I guess whatever social media platform she was on about Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu is not the president of the United States. I can understand, and it wasn't even a threat. It was like a joke. So I can understand you making a threat against the president of the United States or anybody in political office or anybody, period. Right? But the fact that they arrested this young woman saying that she made a threat against Benjamin Netanyahu. Who the fuck is Benjamin Netanyahu? He's not the president of the United States. He is the president of Israel. That's it. That's it. But again, you have to understand that Israel is the unofficial 51st state of America, right? And there's a book called Our American Israel. I forgot the author's name, but you guys go read that book. She talks about how that the Israel was created in that region to put a check on Arab powers and Arab expansionism, right? You got to understand history. Okay, so it's just like I just said. This when you can see how they do these things, when you can understand how they do this thing, because their mindset never changed. They may have money and in positions of power, but the same racist ideology, the whole Nazi ideology, that's their playbook. That is their playbook, and they are doing it to the T. But because most people don't understand history, because they have lied about history, they have erased history, they have changed history for their benefit, not to preserve the truth, but to preserve and hold on to their power, their influence, their deception, their manipulation, their lies is what you need to understand. Okay? So these are false flag operations, right? And it's so obvious, so obvious. Okay, let me see if I can show you that picture of Trump walking away with his fist pumped up in the air. All right. I was actually looking for that photo. It was on. It came up on my Facebook timeline. I forgot which news agency that showed the photo, right? But it showed Trump as he's being led out, doing the same fist up in the air, that sort of thing. And again, then I saw another post that said that the alleged shooter is an Israeli soldier serving in the IDF, right? And I'm just like, okay, who's posting these things? How do they know this, right? And this is from the Malcolm X Society group, right? So I want you to understand what it is that they're doing, right? In the news reports that I've read, I even Googled it, right? The alleged shooter soldier in the, as a Israeli soldier, nothing comes up. But I want you to I want to read something, right? This is a statement that Trump said, right? It said, let me just read this part of the article. Allen had written what a White House source characterized Sunday morning as a manifesto. And Allen's brother notified the New London, Connecticut police of that writing just minutes before the incident at the dinner. Isn't it interesting how moments before this happened, then his brother notify the Connecticut police of it? So, what most people are who do things like this usually don't really um, have them. Their manifesto is very private to them, so they keep it to themselves. Okay, they keep it to themselves. But anyhow, like I said, this is just very strange, right? Saying her brother, okay, this was his sister, Alan's sister, spoke to Secret Service and saying her brother had a tendency to make radical statements and his rhetoric constantly referenced a plan to do something to fix the issue of the today's world. Okay, I always say that the people who can see the reality, right, and the people who know what's going on, this is they will always attack you for knowing the truth. They will try to condition you. They will try to mind control you, condition you. This is how they create lone wolf assassins, these sort of things, right? This is how they use psychological manipulation, psychological operations against those who understand the truth, all right? And I talked about this, right, in my early years of being targeted, okay? Of, my brother too. My twin brother walked into a hospital. He wasn't feeling well. He said he received the transmission to go to the bathroom. He went to the bathroom, and there were two clips of 9 millimeter bullets. Right, two clips, right on the bathroom sink. He did the smart thing. He didn't touch it. He went to the security guard. They called the police, and they came and get it. Early on in my being targeted at my job, walking home one night, all right, someone that I knew from high school, hang out with. I would say we were almost, best friends actually. All right, you know what I'm saying? Haven't seen him haven't spoken to him over a decade. Walking, all of a sudden he appears. You know, again, haven't really, we really have not been speaking to each other in over like 10 years, except for the normal hi, because of the stuff that happened when I was younger. It really let me know that this individual was not a friend to me as I thought he was. Right? Just calls me over, open the trunk of his car. Right? Pulls out of the box and show me a handgun. You know, and they do it because when I was being targeted at my job, I used to get very angry. So whenever I get angry, they'll do some shit like that. I talk about being manipulated using dark psychology, particularly operant conditioning. Whenever I would do something nice for someone, they would attack me psychologically. They would I would be hit so bad with directed energy weapons, right? Headaches, the whole line. Ice pick headaches, right? If I yell at somebody though, they'll send somebody around me, and they'll start counting money. They'll take out a stack of cash in their hand. They'll start counting money, right? In order to condition me into making me believe, or trying to make me believe that, or if I get angry, if I do this, that I'll get rewarded. Because and I've studied it. I've studied it, what they would do, and I realized that this is what they do in the society, particularly for us as black people. When it comes to music, rewarding those who are, I should say, rewarding those who have created lyrics that were, even though it's the reality, but it's still detrimental to hear the stuff every single time. While then they were promoting this, right? They were elevating those artists, while the artists who was talking about, the positive things, they wasn't getting that record contract. They wasn't being promoted. Their song wasn't being played on the radio, right? So now you have a shifted message, one from positive to negative, and it was being done on a larger scale. So I can understand what we as TIs go through personally, right? I have been saying this for a very long time, right? That this is what they do to us nationally, globally, right? On a global scale, okay? And so when you understand these things, they have to silence you. Hacking into my the home Wi-Fi to deny my phone that I record with. You guys see me outside, I do my videos, stuff like that, right? So I cannot upload the video of how they were. And again, I've proven it over and over again. Harassment by the New York Police Department, right? Those sort of coercive threats, showing you guys exactly what it is that they do, explaining how they do it. As I said, showing you guys exactly what they do in New York Police Department using the sirens. And you see, when they do these things to you, they have to compromise you. They have to compromise you in ways so that you can't come forward, you can't speak about it. They'll try to silence you. This is what they're doing. This is what they're doing. And like I said, we have to become smarter. We have to become more aware of what's going on. Okay, I had posted a Facebook, not posted, but I posted on Facebook. Let me see if I can find it. Let me finish what I was saying here. Right, so uh, she also confirmed that Allen had purchased 2 handguns and a shotgun, storing them in their parents' home without their parents' knowledge. Speaking to Fox News on Sunday morning, Trump said the quick response from the Secret Service and law enforcement, this is key, right? And law enforcement is evidence that Democrats should vote to fund the Department of Homeland Security. A partisan stalemate on Capitol Hill means the DHS has been shut down for nearly 2 months. This is the reason why they did this. Okay? This is the reason why. Just as how when Trump was failing in the polls, what happened? There was an assassination attempt on his life. All of a sudden, that moment right there with him standing up doing the fist pump gave him that boost in the polls to where he won the presidency. I mean, along with other, things that they were doing too, stealing. There's also talk about, when Joe Biden won, the Democrats stole the election. No, they steal the election from Kamala Harris. Okay, you need to understand these things, right? Racism and white supremacy will do anything to hold on to power. Republicans will do anything to hold on to power. Okay, so again, this is the reason why you need to understand what it is that they're doing. All right. Shit, I was going to do something, but I forgot what it was. Um, Understanding these things is very, very important. Okay, and getting the community and community of people to become involved in psychological crimes against an individual or group of people. Getting family members to engage in trauma based conditioning and coercive control conditioning, right? Based on their religious ideology, not understanding the danger of engaging in such behavior towards an individual, particularly a family member, that can lead to that family member having a psychotic break and potentially harming them as well as the individual themselves. See, a belief system will make you believe things, and then when the reality hits you, then it might be too late. And like I always say, they have tried to drive me over the edge using many different using manipulating my kids, threatening my kids, doing things to my kids in order to get me angry, so that I will lash out. But I always say I will only defend myself when I'm being attacked. But they will. I showed you guys how to do microaggression with the cop that was walking and he stick his elbow out and hit me because they want to cause an incident. They want to cause an incident. Why? Because of their false narrative, their lies, and the fact that they have microchipped us TIs, and they don't want people to know about it. Okay? Do your research. Become more aware. Oh yes, I remember what I was saying. Yeah, see? No, it'll come back to me. Hold on a sec. All right, here it is. This is a PDF that I posted. It's called um, it's called Technologies of Information and Psychological Influence on People in Modern War. Okay, this is hold on a sec here. Um, Doctor of Technical Science, Professor, Head of the Central Research Institute of Armament and Military Equipment of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. So this is from the Ukraine government and their military personnel, right? I want you to understand when I talk about cognitive warfare, neurocognitive warfare, and how European nations have begun teaching their citizens about what cognitive warfare and neurocognitive warfare is. He's flying a helicopter overhead. Right, but in America, they're not going. The American government is not going to teach the public about these things. They're not. Why? Because they've been using cognitive warfare against the public for decades, particularly in the black community against black people. Right, and again, proving to you guys when I say that they have used the black community and black people, black men, women, and children, to perfect their psychological operations, psychological warfare, cognitive warfare, neurocognitive warfare, right? Social engineering programs, right? That black people in America have been the victims of this. So when I hear Negro Peons talk about not having the victim mentality, you don't even understand it. You already have the victim mentality. You just don't know it. Doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or billionaire, what have you, because you have to look at what it is that they do and what they don't do. How they have no social responsibility to the people of their group. How they don't think about buying land and building, right, which will give them true wealth and generational wealth to come for decades, for centuries. Because every other group thinks like that, except for these black bourgeoisies. And there's a reason why. There's a reason why. Okay? Just want to read the short article, and then I'm going to, well, I'm not going to read the entire thing. Now I'm going to the PDF, but I just wanted to read the abstract that I I posted, right? I pasted. Abstract. The article analyzed trend in the development of methods and means of information psychological warfare in the world and in Russia. The type, principles of operation, and features of the use of information and psychological weapons, as well as the technical means and technologies on which they rely, are considered. Information is provided on existing modern models of information psychological weapons, okay, and examples of their use by different countries. The possibility of using the possibility of Russia using information and psychological weapons. Again, two different things now: information and psychological weapons. So they make that distinction, okay? Against the defense forces and citizens of Ukraine is considered as a real threat to the national security of the state. The risk of transformation of a consciousness and subconscious, right? Listen to this. When I talk about hijacking my consciousness, programming my subconscious while I'm sleeping, this is what I'm talking about. When I wake up in the middle of the night, when they wake me up, New York Police Department wake me up and start having me on the remote no monitoring and transmitting messages into my mind, and then using their sirens as I get my phone and I realize what's going on, I go to record, they start using their sirens. Then they'll turn off the internet. This is what I'm talking about. And this is, like I said, I'm going to expose them in every single way. Every way. Okay? So let me read this again. The risk of transformation of the consciousness and subconscious of the population under the influence of information and psychological weapons are analyzed. The mechanism of influence of television and the internet on human consciousness are indicated, as well as the principles of their use by the enemy during psychological operation against Ukraine. The need for Ukraine to take preventative measures to protect military personnel and citizens of Ukraine from the effect of information and psychological weapons is pointed out. Keywords: information and psychological warfare, information and psychological weapons, physical influence, psychological operations, psychometrics, big data, psychoprobing, okay, neurolinguistic programming, which I talked about, doc NLP, right, the creation of anchors and triggers, phobias, and so forth, right, and also that's part of the dark psychological color warfare as well, right? Laser weapons, acoustic weapons. I talk about acoustic vibrational weapons, which caused my back injury. Okay. So the document, you can find it online and Google share. It is the Central Research Institute of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Like I said, I don't just say shit just to say shit. I'll say, I'll back it up. When I say something in terms of our targeting us TIs and how I'm being targeted, I'm going to prove it. Right? I'm particularly the psychological aspect of it. Right? And I'm going to prove, at least give information about the technological aspect of it, like silent sound spectrum, remote neural monitoring, right? BCI interface, wireless BCI, those sort of things, right? If I can find through research these things, and I talk about Dr. Jose Delgado, go to the New York Times, go to Google, New York Times article, 1970, Dr. Jose Delgado. What kind of human beings would we like to create or construct, right? Talks about the STEM receiver, which was a wireless radio frequency transmitter and receiver, right? Or maybe just a receiver. I'm not, well, it probably would be a transmitter too. But what it does, it was to control the behavior of the subjects, right? And used in this case, it was the interview. There was a rhesus monkey that he inserted, right, the chip into the shoulders of the monkey. Go and read about it. This was in the 1970s. Okay? So imagine how much advanced. So when they talk about these things don't exist, they're fucking lying. They're liars. They're deceivers. They're lying. Understand what it is that they're doing. All right? Understand what it is that they're doing. Because like I told them, I am the wrong person they fuck with, but I'm the right person to expose their asses. Anyhow, talk to you guys in the next video.